Before a man conquers anything in the external world, he must first conquer the battlefield inside his own mind. Most men spend their lives believing that their greatest enemies are outside of them: competition, difficult circumstances, unfair systems, hostile environments. But the harsh truth is that the most dangerous opponent you will ever face wakes up in your own body every morning. It is the version of you that negotiates with weakness, the part of you that delays the hard task until tomorrow, the voice that whispers that comfort is acceptable, that discipline can wait, that effort is optional when no one is watching. This quiet negotiation happens thousands of times throughout a man's life, and each time he accepts the terms, he surrenders a small piece of his power. The strategic mind understands something most people never realize. Your mind is not a peaceful place. It is contested territory. Every thought you entertain either strengthens your command or weakens your authority over yourself. Every distraction you allow becomes a breach in your defenses. Every moment of indulgence without discipline trains your mind to obey impulse instead of intention. This is why the man who seeks real power must learn to think like a general. A general does not look at the battlefield with emotion. He studies it with ruthless clarity. He identifies vulnerabilities, reinforces strengths, and removes anything that compromises the mission. Your mind requires the same treatment. You must observe your habits the way a strategist studies enemy movement. Where are you undisciplined? Where do you lose focus? Where does your attention leak into things that produce no progress? Because the man who cannot command himself will never command anything else. Master the internal war, and the external world begins to change its posture toward you. Lose control of your mind, and every opportunity, every relationship, and every ambition will eventually collapse under the weight of your own disorder. The battlefield is already inside you. The only question is whether you will lead the war or lose it quietly, one compromise at a time. Weak men react. They see pressure and immediately respond with emotion. An insult appears, and they answer it instantly. A setback occurs, and frustration takes control. A moment of chaos enters their day, and they allow it to dictate their next move. In that instant, they believe they are showing strength. In reality, they are revealing their strings, because the man who reacts without thinking is no longer in control of himself. He is being controlled by the environment around him. The strategic mind operates differently. A general does not treat every stimulus as a command. He treats it as information. When pressure arrives, he does not rush forward blindly. He pauses. He observes the terrain. He measures the weight of every possible response before he moves a single step. This moment of calculation is where real power lives. Most people cannot tolerate that pause. They feel an immediate need to defend themselves, to prove a point, to release the tension building inside them. But that emotional discharge comes at a cost. The moment you react impulsively, you expose your weak points to anyone paying attention. And there are always people paying attention. In negotiations, in leadership, in relationships, and in conflict. The man who controls his reaction controls the frame of the situation. He becomes difficult to predict, difficult to manipulate, and nearly impossible to provoke. This does not mean becoming passive. It means becoming precise. The general studies the moment before acting. He asks a different question than most people ask. Instead of asking, "What do I feel right now?" he asks, "What outcome am I engineering?" That shift changes everything. Because feelings are not commands, they are signals. They provide information about the environment, but they should never be allowed to dictate strategy. When you build the discipline to place a wall between stimulus and response, something powerful begins to happen. You stop becoming a piece on someone else's board. You become the player moving the pieces. And the man who controls the board rarely loses the game. Every serious man eventually faces a decision that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. It is not the decision of what to add to his life, but what he is willing to remove from it. Because power focus, and progress are not built only through accumulation. They are built through elimination. Most men try to carry everything with them as they move through life. They keep friendships that drain their ambition. They maintain habits that quietly sabotage their discipline. They remain in environments that shrink their vision because familiarity feels safer than change. But strategy does not reward comfort. Strategy rewards clarity. The man who operates with purpose understands that every element of his life is either strengthening his mission or weakening it. There is no neutral ground. Every conversation you entertain, every habit you repeat, and every environment you tolerate is shaping the version of yourself that will exist in the future. And if that environment is weak, distracted, or complacent, it will slowly program you to become the same. This is why ruthless self-auditing becomes necessary. Not cruel, not emotional, simply honest. Look at the people around you with the objectivity of a strategist reviewing a battlefield. Ask yourself difficult questions. Does this relationship sharpen my focus or dilute it? Does this habit build my strength or slowly erode it? Does this environment push me toward the man I am becoming or pull me back toward the man I am trying to leave behind? Many men know the answers to these questions, but they refuse to act on them because cutting things away feels like loss. But the general understands something different. Dead weight is not neutral. Dead weight slows movement, weakens formations, and eventually causes collapse under pressure. The man who refuses to lose cannot afford to carry passengers. This does not mean becoming cold or detached from the world. It means becoming disciplined about access. Your time, your attention, and your energy are the most limited resources you possess. Spend them deliberately, protect them carefully, and remove anything that consistently pulls them away from the mission you have chosen to build. One of the most underestimated forms of power in the modern world is silence. Not the silence of insecurity or hesitation, but the silence of deliberate control. The silence of a man who understands that every word he releases into the world carries strategic consequences. Most men speak far too much. They explain their plans before those plans have taken shape. They defend their decisions to people who have neither the vision nor the authority to judge them. They reveal their frustrations, their doubts, their ambitions, and their next move to anyone willing to listen. They believe this openness makes them appear confident. In reality, it makes them exposed. Information is one of the most valuable currencies in any competitive environment. The moment you reveal too much about what you want, what you fear, or where you are going, you hand other people the blueprint they need to predict you. And the man who can be predicted can be controlled. Strategic silence removes that advantage from everyone around you. The disciplined man understands that silence is not emptiness. Silence is pressure. When you speak less, other people feel compelled to fill the space. They reveal more about their intentions, their insecurities, and their strategies than they ever planned to show. While they speak, you observe. While they explain, you measure. While they reveal, you collect information. This is how quiet control is established without aggression. The most dangerous individuals in any room are rarely the loudest ones. They are the ones who listen carefully, speak only when necessary, and choose their words with precision. When they finally do speak, their words carry weight because they are rare and deliberate. There is also another advantage to silence that most people ignore. When you stop announcing your plans and defending your choices, you remove the noise of outside opinion. Your energy stops leaking into conversations that produce nothing. Your focus returns to execution. In the end, results speak with a volume that explanations never can. Silence protects the process, protects the strategy, and protects the mind of the man who is building something too important to broadcast before it is ready. Every man carries a powerful force inside him. It is the force that pushes him to build, to achieve, to conquer challenges that weaker minds avoid. That force is hunger. Hunger for success. Hunger for recognition. hunger for more than the life he was given. Without hunger, nothing great is ever built. But hunger without discipline becomes one of the most destructive forces a man can unleash on himself. History is filled with examples of powerful individuals who reached the top of their fields only to destroy everything they had built. Leaders who controlled empires but could not control their appetites. Visionaries who achieved extraordinary success but collapsed under the weight of their own desires. In most cases, their downfall did not come from enemies. It came from within. Unchecked hunger begins to demand constant satisfaction, more attention, more pleasure, more validation, more power. And when a man feeds that hunger without limits, he slowly loses the ability to govern himself. What once fueled ambition begins to fuel self-destruction. The strategic mind understands a critical difference that most people ignore. Desire itself is not the enemy. Desire is energy. It is raw fuel capable of driving extraordinary progress. But fuel must be controlled if it is going to power an engine rather than cause an explosion. The man who becomes dangerous is not the man who eliminates his hunger. He is the man who chains it. He directs it toward the mission instead of allowing it to scatter his attention. He delays gratification when comfort tempts him away from long-term progress. He learns to sit in front of temptation and calmly refuse it when it threatens to derail his discipline. Every time he does this, something powerful happens inside him. His mind learns that impulses do not hold authority. His intentions do. Over time, this creates a form of psychological dominance that few men ever develop. A man who commands his hunger commands his actions. And the man who commands his actions ultimately commands his destiny. At some point in a serious man's life, he must make a decision that most people will never understand. The decision to disappear for a while, not from existence, but from unnecessary visibility. The decision to stop performing progress for an audience and begin building in silence. Modern culture encourages the opposite. It rewards constant exposure. Every step of improvement is expected to be documented, announced, and displayed. A workout becomes a post. A goal becomes a public declaration. A small victory becomes a broadcast to anyone willing to watch. But the strategic mind recognizes a hidden danger in this pattern. When you constantly show your progress to the world, you begin to receive recognition before the work is complete. That recognition feels like achievement. Your mind experiences the reward without earning the full result. Slowly, the motivation that should fuel long-term effort begins to weaken. The mission becomes performance instead of transformation. Invisible progress protects you from this trap. When no one is watching, your work must be fueled by something deeper than applause. Discipline becomes internal. Effort becomes consistent because it is tied to purpose rather than validation. There is also a strategic advantage to moving quietly. When your ambitions remain private, no one can predict your trajectory. Your preparation happens beneath the surface, where distractions and opinions have no access to it. By the time people notice the results, the foundation has already been built. Throughout history, the most decisive victories often came from movements that were invisible until the final moment. Preparation happened quietly. Strategy was protected. Action arrived without warning. The same principle applies to personal growth. When you build in the dark, you eliminate unnecessary noise. You remove the pressure to perform. You create space for deep focus and uninterrupted progress. Then one day, when you finally step back into the light, the change appears sudden to everyone else. But you know the truth. It was built patiently, deliberately, and completely out of sight. There is a certain kind of man the world struggles to understand. He is not loud. He does not constantly prove his strength to others. Yet when pressure arrives, when chaos spreads, when most people begin to collapse under uncertainty, he remains steady. This is the unbreakable man. He is not unbreakable because life has been easy for him. In fact, the opposite is usually true. He has faced failure, rejection, loss, and moments where everything he built seemed to fall apart. The difference is that those experiences did not destroy him. They revealed him. Most men encounter hardship and immediately begin asking why it is happening to them. They interpret difficulty as a sign that something is wrong with their path, their ability, or their future. The unbreakable man sees the same hardship differently. He sees it as training. Every challenge becomes a form of psychological conditioning. Every setback forces him to strengthen his patience, sharpen his thinking, and deepen his discipline. Instead of escaping pressure, he learns how to stand inside it. Over time, something powerful begins to develop within him. He builds a relationship with his own will that is stronger than any circumstance around him. This mindset echoes a principle taught by the Stoic philosopher Epictetus. He taught that human suffering often comes from confusing what we can control with what we cannot. The unbreakable man understands this distinction with absolute clarity. He does not waste energy fighting events that lie outside his influence. He directs his focus toward the only territory that truly belongs to him: his effort, his attitude, his response, and his standards. That focus creates stability. People sense it immediately. In moments where others panic, he becomes calm. Where others react emotionally, he becomes deliberate. His confidence does not come from pretending to be strong. It comes from knowing that he has already faced difficulty and survived it. And once a man learns that he can endure the worst moments of life without losing himself, he becomes very difficult for the world to break. There is a silent law shaping your life right now, whether you recognize it or not. It operates quietly in the background of every conversation you have, every environment you enter, and every relationship you maintain. That law is simple but ruthless. The people around you determine the limits of your growth. Human beings are not isolated systems. We absorb attitudes, standards, and expectations from those closest to us without even realizing it. The language they use, the ambitions they carry, and the limits they accept slowly become part of our own thinking. This is why environment is never neutral. If you spend most of your time around people who complain about effort, avoid responsibility, and settle for comfort, your mind will gradually adapt to that standard. Not because you lack intelligence, but because constant exposure shapes perception. Over time, what once looked like mediocrity begins to feel normal. The strategic mind refuses to ignore this reality. A man who intends to build something significant must become extremely selective about who he allows into his inner circle. Not everyone deserves access to your time, your attention, or your energy. These resources are limited, and the wrong environment can quietly drain them for years before you realize what has happened. This idea reflects a principle often associated with the political insights of Niccolò Machiavelli. He warned that leaders must choose their advisors carefully, because poor counsel has destroyed more rulers than powerful enemies ever did. The same truth applies to your life. When you begin raising your standards, your growth becomes a mirror that reflects the limitations others have chosen not to confront. And that reflection can make people uncomfortable. The disciplined man recognizes this pattern without bitterness. Instead of arguing, he adjusts his environment. He seeks conversations that challenge him, relationships that sharpen him, and alliances with individuals who are building rather than drifting. Because the ceiling of your circle will eventually become the ceiling of your life. The modern world is engineered for immediacy. Every platform, every product, every algorithm is designed to deliver satisfaction as quickly as possible. A notification appears, and your attention is captured. A piece of content loads instantly, and your mind receives another small reward. Over time, this constant stream of quick gratification reshapes the way people think. It trains them to expect results immediately. But real achievement rarely operates on that timeline. Power, skill, and influence are built slowly, often in ways that remain invisible for long periods of time. The man who cannot tolerate delayed results will abandon his path long before the outcome becomes visible. This is why patience has become one of the rarest strategic advantages in the modern world. Most people chase speed. They move quickly from one idea to the next, one opportunity to another, hoping that rapid movement will eventually lead to success. But movement is not the same as progress. A man can run in the wrong direction with incredible speed and still end up further away from where he wants to be. The strategic mind understands this difference. Instead of reacting to every short-term opportunity, he focuses on a direction that compounds over time. He plants effort where the reward may not appear for months or even years. While others become impatient and abandon their efforts, he continues building quietly. This mindset echoes the philosophy of the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who often reminded himself that what truly matters in life rarely arrives with urgency. Important work unfolds slowly and demands steady commitment. The man who learns to operate on a longer timeline gains a powerful advantage over those around him. While others chase quick wins and temporary recognition, he invests in foundations that grow stronger each year. Eventually, the compound effect begins to reveal itself. What looked like slow progress suddenly becomes undeniable momentum. And by the time the world recognizes the result, the patient man has already moved far ahead of the competition. There comes a moment in a man's life when he realizes something that changes the way he sees the world forever. The obstacles around him are not the real barrier. The system is not the ultimate enemy. The competition is not the deciding factor. The decisive factor is the man himself. Every principle you have encountered so far leads to this realization. Discipline, silence, patience, control of desire, strategic thinking, selective alliances. These are not isolated habits. They are parts of a larger transformation. They forge a man into something far more dangerous than talent alone. They turn him into the weapon. Most people spend their lives searching for external advantages. They look for better circumstances, better connections, better opportunities, hoping that one day the right situation will finally appear. But the strategic man understands that true power does not come from waiting for the perfect environment. It comes from becoming the kind of man who can operate effectively in any environment. This idea echoes the ruthless clarity found in the writings of Niccolò Machiavelli. He understood that power does not belong to the man who hopes for stability. It belongs to the man who can adapt, calculate, and act with precision, regardless of the conditions surrounding him. When a man reaches this stage of development, something changes in the way others perceive him. His confidence no longer depends on validation. His discipline no longer depends on motivation. His direction no longer depends on approval. He moves with intention. Pressure no longer destabilizes him. Distractions lose their influence. Criticism becomes background noise. His attention is fixed on the mission he has chosen to build. This is the final evolution of the strategic mind. You stop searching for the tool that will solve your problems. You stop waiting for the circumstances that will make success easier. Instead, you sharpen yourself until your character becomes the decisive force in every situation. At that point, the outcome changes. Because when the man himself becomes the weapon, the world has very few ways left to stop him.